Have you ever wished you could build a fortress around your heart, a place so secure that no criticism, no rejection, no betrayal could ever breach its walls? Have you ever fantasized about a version of yourself that is completely unshakable, someone who walks through the fire of life without ever getting burned? You might be tired of the silent, gnawing pain that follows you, the ache of disappointment that lives just beneath the surface, even when you're smiling and insisting that everything is fine. You're exhausted from the performance, from the constant effort of trying to be strong enough, good enough, and resilient enough for a world that seems to demand everything and offer so little security in return. But what if the entire strategy is wrong? What if the very act of building walls is what keeps you trapped inside with the pain? Let me tell you a truth that might be difficult to hear. As long as you are trying to avoid being hurt, you will remain a slave to everything that has the potential to hurt you. As long as you numb yourself, build defenses, and hide your vulnerabilities, you are giving away your power to every careless word, every disappointing action, and every hollow silence that comes your way. This isn't a sign of weakness. It is a fundamental human condition for those who have not yet learned to look within. The great pioneer of depth psychology, Carl Jung, offered a radical perspective on this struggle when he said that we are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we choose to become in response. The key to invulnerability, then, is not in shielding yourself from the world, but in integrating it. True, unshakable strength doesn't come from the absence of pain, but from the courageous and total awareness of who you are, especially in the moments you feel broken. It's about bringing everything you've hidden in the dark out into the light, not so the world can judge it, but so you can finally own it. If you have found your way to this video, it is almost certainly not by accident. This is a message for the part of you that is tired of being at the mercy of your own emotional reactions, for the part of you that senses there must be a different way to live. I want to show you that there is, but it will require you to face truths that may sting at first. Are you ready to discover how that very pain, when understood correctly, can become the key to your liberation? You have been conditioned to believe that the source of your suffering is out there. It's in your partner's indifference, your boss's unfair criticism, the friend who let you down, the opportunity that passed you by. You pinpoint the cause of your pain to these external events, these people and their actions, as if they were archers firing arrows directly into your heart. But the hard and liberating truth is that none of these things, in themselves, have any intrinsic power to wound you. An arrow can only hurt you if it strikes a pre-existing vulnerability, an open wound that has been festering long before the arrow was ever loosed. The external event is merely the trigger. The real pain is the echo it awakens within you. What truly hurts you is not what someone else does, but the story you immediately and unconsciously tell yourself about what it means. It's the activation of an old trauma you thought you had forgotten, the confirmation of a deep-seated fear that you are not good enough, the stirring of an emptiness you desperately try to fill with external validation. When someone's words cut you deeply, it's because they scrape against an insecurity you've been carrying your whole life. When rejection feels like a catastrophic blow, it's because it lands on an old, unhealed wound of abandonment. Jung's work illuminates this with stunning clarity. The emotional charge of our reactions to the world is a direct reflection of what remains unresolved and unintegrated within our own psyche. This is why two people can experience the exact same event with vastly different outcomes. One person can be fired from a job and see it as a devastating personal failure, a confirmation of their inadequacy, leading to a spiral of depression. Another person can experience the same firing and, after the initial sting, see it as an opportunity for reevaluation, a course correction, a chance to pursue something more aligned with their true self. The event itself was neutral. The difference lay entirely within the internal landscape of each individual. It is never about what happens to you. It is always about where that event lands inside of you. Here we arrive at a profoundly uncomfortable realization. You continue to suffer so intensely because, on a deep, often unconscious level, you still believe you can, and should, be able to control how the world and the people in it treat you. You operate under the illusion that if you are just kind enough, smart enough, successful enough, or accommodating enough, you will be granted a magical immunity from pain. This is a fool's errand. You are living in a constant state of tension, trying to manage the unmanageable, trying to predict the unpredictable, and trying to prevent the inevitable disappointments that are a natural part of the human experience. Do you truly want to stop being so easily hurt? Then you must abandon the strategy of protecting yourself from hurt. This seems paradoxical, but it is a central key. Your goal should not be more control over the external world, but more consciousness of your internal world. As long as you believe that other people need to change their behavior for you to feel secure, you will remain their emotional hostage. Your freedom is not contingent on them. It is contingent on you. Your liberation begins at the precise moment you understand that nothing from the outside has any power over you unless it finds a corresponding, unhealed resonance within you. And this internal territory, this hidden landscape of the soul, is the only battlefield that truly matters. This is a realm of the unconscious, and it is here that the war for your freedom will be won or lost. The greatest deception you have ever accepted is a belief that you are the rational master of your own life. You believe you are in the driver's seat, making conscious choices, steering your destiny. But for most of us, most of the time, this is a complete illusion. You are not the driver. You are the passenger in a vehicle being driven by forces you don't recognize, on a map you've never seen, toward a destination you didn't choose. You live on autopilot, reacting to life with knee-jerk emotions you don't understand, repeating self-sabotaging patterns you can't seem to break, and feeling waves of anxiety or sadness that seem to come from nowhere. You are not in control because the vast majority of what drives you is hidden from your conscious awareness. Carl Jung articulated this with chilling precision. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Read that again. That string of bad luck in your relationships, that inexplicable inability to get ahead in your career, that fate of always being the one who is misunderstood or left behind. It is not fate. It is the invisible hand of your own unconscious, directing the show from behind the curtain. The sudden rage that explodes over a minor inconvenience, the profound sadness that descends on a perfectly fine day, the persistent anxiety that hums beneath the surface of your life. These are not random glitches in your system. They are urgent messages from the submerged parts of your psyche, the parts that you have ignored, repressed, and disowned. Jung referred to this vast, hidden territory as the personal and collective unconscious. It's not just a passive storage unit for forgotten memories. It is a dynamic, living system, a powerful force field of repressed traumas, unfulfilled desires, societal conditioning, and primal fears that you have pushed away because they were too painful or inconvenient to confront. But they did not go away. They simply went underground, where they have been gaining strength and influencing your every thought, feeling, and action ever since. You wonder why a specific tone of voice can completely dismantle your confidence. It's because that tone is unconsciously linked to the voice of a critical parent from your childhood, a memory your conscious mind has forgotten, but your nervous system has recorded with perfect fidelity. You wonder why you keep attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable. It's because your unconscious is trying to resolve an early wound of emotional neglect, recreating the initial scene over and over again in a desperate, futile attempt to finally get it right. You are not choosing these experiences consciously. Your unconscious is choosing them for you, compelling you to repeat the past until you finally have the courage to face it. Jung taught that we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. And what have you been doing for your entire life? Judging your negative emotions, repressing your unacceptable thoughts, and silencing the parts of you that don't fit the neat, tidy image of who you think you should be. The unconscious doesn't care about your social media profile or your carefully constructed persona. Pushing these parts of yourself down doesn't make them disappear. It just forces them to find more insidious and destructive ways to get your attention. They manifest as a toxic relationship you can't seem to leave, the promotion you sabotage at the last minute, the chronic illness that has no clear medical cause, or the free-floating anxiety that poisons your moments of peace. This is not bad luck. This is not fate. This is your own soul, screaming for you to wake up and pay attention to what lies beneath the surface. Do you want to become a person who is no longer perpetually wounded by the world? Then you must stop running from the contents of your own mind. The real work is not building higher walls to keep the world out. It is to become a deep-sea diver, exploring the vast and sometimes terrifying ocean of your own unconscious. As long as you remain a stranger to your own depths, you will be a puppet, your strings pulled by emotions you can't control and impulses you don't understand. The more you try to shield yourself from the pain that comes from the outside, the more you expose yourself to the chaos that is erupting from the inside. There's a way out, but it's not through defense. It's through integration. And this journey is what turns a fragile puppet into a whole and unshakable being. Most people, when faced with the relentless possibility of being hurt, adopt a very logical-seeming strategy. They close down. They construct elaborate emotional fortresses, piece by piece, with bricks of cynicism and mortar of indifference. They learn to wear masks of stoicism and apathy, perfecting a performance of invulnerability. You hear them say things like, "I don't care anymore," or "nothing gets to me," believing this is a declaration of strength. But this is not strength. It is a declaration of fear. Inside these self-made prisons, they are not free from pain. They are marinating in it. The problem was never the feeling of pain itself. The problem is not knowing what you are feeling and why you are feeling it. This profound lack of self-awareness is the source of all emotional fragility. To truly know yourself is the only real armor there is. Jung captured this beautifully when he advised, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when you touch a human soul, be just another human soul." And that tender, complex, vulnerable human soul you've been trying so desperately to hide behind a facade of control and invincibility is crying out to be seen, to be acknowledged by you. Becoming emotionally unshakable has absolutely nothing to do with becoming cold, detached, or numb. It has nothing to do with avoiding conflict, ignoring your pain, or pretending you don't care. The path to true strength is the exact opposite. It is a path of radical integration, of courageous acceptance, of bringing every single forgotten, shamed, and feared part of yourself out of the shadows and into the light of your own consciousness. You do not become untouchable by building a barrier between you and the world. You become untouchable when you realize that no one can attack, insult, or trigger a part of you that you have not already met, understood, and embraced within yourself. When you have done the work to integrate your own shadow, your greed, your envy, your anger, your fear, your insecurities, you stop reacting when you see these qualities in others. You simply observe. You are no longer an emotional puppet dancing on the strings of external validation or criticism. That is the only real freedom. This process is what Jung called individuation. It is a lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are in your entirety. It is not about becoming the person others expect you to be, nor is it about adhering to the idealized version of yourself you thought you needed to be in order to be loved and accepted. It is a raw, authentic, and sometimes messy process of becoming what emerges from the depths of your own being, from the sacred union of your light and your shadow, your consciousness and your unconscious. Individuation is not a process of perfection, as Jung wisely noted, but a completion. You don't need to become a better person. You just need to become a whole person. And here lies the secret that so many self-help gurus miss entirely. The more you run from your pain, the larger its shadow grows behind you, chasing you down. The more desperately you try not to be affected by the world, the more fragile and thin-skinned you become. But when you turn around and face your own wounds, when you have the courage to look your own demons in the eye, when you accept the totality of who you are, with all that is beautiful and ugly, noble and shameful, then nothing that happens on the outside can ever truly dismantle you. The world loses its power to define you because you have finally defined yourself. This path, however, requires a kind of courage that is rarely celebrated in our society. It is a quiet courage to look inward, the courage to abandon the masks that have kept you safe but small, the courage to finally, truly feel. It is in the heart of the pain itself that the alchemical secret of transformation is hidden. Far from being your enemy, your suffering, when approached with consciousness, becomes a very gateway to the unshakable strength you have been seeking all along. It is time to stop running from it and learn to walk through it. From the moment you were a child, you were taught to see pain as an enemy. You learned that suffering is a sign of weakness, that crying is a form of failure, and that feeling too deeply makes you dangerously vulnerable. And so, you started to run. You built a life around the avoidance of discomfort, developing sophisticated strategies to deny, distract, and numb yourself from the inevitable sorrows of existence. But the more you flee from your suffering, the more relentlessly it pursues you. And worse, it begins to shapeshift. The pain you refuse to feel directly does not simply vanish. It metastasizes. Unacknowledged pain disguises itself as chronic anxiety, as inexplicable rage, as a deep and pervasive apathy that leaches the color from your life. It becomes a boredom you can't escape, the self-destructive impulses you don't understand, the addiction that promises relief but delivers only a deeper prison. Ignored pain doesn't disappear. It just digs subterranean tunnels throughout your psyche until one day, seemingly without warning, the entire structure of your life collapses from within. Jung had a radically different and more profound understanding of suffering. He saw it not as a malfunction, but as a messenger from the soul. He viewed pain as the alarm system of the unconscious, the very language that your deeper self, the totality of who you are, uses to get the attention of your small, stubborn ego. He famously said, "Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't shoo her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her as a guest and listen to what she has to say." But you don't listen, do you? You turn up the volume on the television, you scroll endlessly through your phone, you pour another drink, you work longer hours. You will do almost anything to avoid sitting in silence with that lady in black and asking her the one question that could save you. What are you here to show me? The truth is that your suffering hurts so intensely because you are in a state of civil war with yourself. There is a part of you that knows it is time to grow, to change, to evolve, and there is another part, your ego, that is terrified of change and is desperately clinging to the familiar, even if the familiar is a source of misery. There is something within you that is crying out for profound transformation, but your ego, which is addicted to control and predictability, does everything in its power to suffocate that call. It is in the immense friction between these two opposing forces, the call to grow and the resistance to change, that the fire of your pain is born. Because genuine growth hurts. Letting go of old, limiting beliefs about yourself hurts. Severing ties with people and situations that no longer serve your evolution hurts. Allowing the parts of your identity that are no longer true to die is a painful process. All of this is a form of mourning, an internal and necessary cycle of death and rebirth. But it is only in that space of ruin, in the rubble of your deconstructed ego, that something new and infinitely more authentic can be born. When your certainties crumble, when your defenses are shattered, when the raw pain of your life lays your vulnerability bare, you are finally given the opportunity to see who you really are without the layers of performance and protection. And at that precise point, your suffering becomes sacred. It is a force that brings you to your knees. And in that posture of surrender, you are finally humble before the only power that can truly set you free, your own deeper self. Jung understood this alchemy. He knew that suffering is not a sign that you have failed at life. It is a sign that your life is trying to begin in earnest. Pain is not the end of the road. It is a toll booth at the beginning of the path toward individuation. The tragedy is that most people get to this point, feel the intensity of the fire, and immediately flee. They run back to their distractions, back to their numbness, back to the superficial safety of the life that was slowly killing them. But if you have listened this far, it is because some part of you knows you are ready to walk through that fire. And on the other side of that dark valley, you will not find an absence of feeling, but the presence of an unbreakable wholeness. Few people ever consciously begin the journey of individuation, and fewer still have the tenacity and courage to see it through to its deeper stages. This is because the path does not promise comfort. It offers no easy answers or guarantees. It does not seek to protect your ego. Its very purpose is to dismantle it piece by painful piece. Jung described individuation as a process of becoming who you truly are, but this means, first and foremost, unlearning who you think you are. And that process of disillusionment often hurts more than any external rejection or failure ever could. You begin to realize, with dawning horror and eventual liberation, that so much of what you considered to be you was a carefully constructed illusion. You are not your list of achievements or your history of failures. You are not your collection of traumas, nor are you the likable, respectable, or intimidating image you built to be loved, admired, or feared by others. All of that was a persona, the mask you created in order to survive in a world that conditions us from birth to trade our authenticity for acceptance. But surviving is not the same as living. Individuation is a soul's primal scream, calling you to a life that lies beyond mere survival. It is a moment when the unconscious begins to forcibly push everything that has been repressed, denied, and distorted into the light of your conscious awareness. The dissolution of the persona is a necessary prerequisite for individuation, Jung wrote, because a persona is merely a mask of collective convenience. In other words, you will have to tear off your own face to discover what lies beneath. It is through this arduous, often terrifying process of stripping away the false that you begin to become truly unshakable. It's not because nothing affects you anymore. It's because you have already walked through the internal hell that the world can only gesture at. You have faced your own inner monsters. You have looked directly into the eyes of your deepest shame, your most profound neediness, your darkest rage, and you have learned to say, I see you. You are a part of me, and you no longer have control over me. It is this internal clarity, this lucidity in the face of your own darkness, that grants you a strength that is utterly independent of external circumstances. You no longer need to be liked by everyone, because you have learned to like yourself. You no longer need to win every argument, because you are secure in your own truth. You no longer need to perform strength, because you have discovered an authentic resilience at your very core. The only true emotional armor is not a hard, brittle shell on the outside. It is a solid, integrated core on the inside. It is a conscious integration of all your disparate parts, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, into a center of awareness that remains steady even as the storms of life rage around you. You may still feel pain, but the pain no longer shatters you. You may be hurt, but you no longer lose your sense of self in the hurt. This is because you have made the fundamental shift from being a reactive creature, tossed about by every wave, to a whole being who has learned to inhabit the depths. But this depth comes at a price, and that price is often a form of loneliness. It's not because you will be physically alone, but because very few people will be able to accompany you on this journey into your own interior. Most people are still living on the surface, trapped in their personas, terrified of feeling what you are now learning to embrace. When you begin to liberate yourself from these superficial games, you will inevitably create distance. But this is not the distance of arrogance or rejection. It is a distance of maturation. You are not pushing people away out of pride. You are simply no longer able to fit into the small, confining boxes where you once sit alongside them. And this brings us to the final, crucial understanding of this entire journey. The ultimate shield is not strength, nor is it detachment. The ultimate shield is consciousness itself. It is the only state of being in which nothing and no one can ever truly have power over you again. We are nearing the end of this exploration, and now that you have journeyed this far into the depths, there is something that must be said with absolute clarity. Nothing, no technique, no philosophy, no defense mechanism will ever shield you from the suffering caused by the external world as long as you remain unconscious of the world that exists within you. The careless word will continue to cut, the rejections will continue to sting, and the losses will continue to bring you to your knees, until the day you finally awaken. An awakening is not a mystical, one-time event. It is a sober, daily, and often difficult choice. It is a choice to look inward even when it hurts, the choice to take radical responsibility for everything you feel, without blaming your parents, your past, your partner, or your fate. Carl Jung provided the ultimate formula for this transformation. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms. You have spent your entire life resisting. You have resisted the fear of not being good enough, the gnawing emptiness of rejection, the sharp pain of loneliness, and the deep anguish of not feeling seen for who you truly are. And what did you do with all that resistance? You hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control everything and everyone around you. You exhausted yourself trying to be perfect, trying to be strong, trying to be whatever you thought you needed to be to finally be safe. And all that monumental effort has brought you to this very moment, tired, worn out, and weary of fighting a battle against a world that was always, in reality, a battle against yourself. But now you know that true emotional immunity is not hardness, it is clarity. It is not about building armor, it is about expanding your awareness. When you finally understand your own triggers, your unconscious patterns, and your unhealed wounds, the actions of others lose their magical power to destroy you. You do not become numb to them. In fact, you may become more sensitive, more open, but the feeling no longer hijacks your entire being. You can feel the sting of criticism, but you no longer drown in a sea of shame. You can feel the ache of loss, but you no longer lose your own center. And this changes everything. What truly shields you is not protecting yourself from the unpredictable chaos of life. It is diving into it so deeply that you reach the silent stillness that lies beneath the turbulent surface. Those who spend their lives paddling frantically on the surface are knocked over by every passing wave. Those who have learned to dive deep know that there is a place of profound silence, stability, and power that the surface storms can never touch. That is your true home. That is where you are headed. And when you begin to live from that place of integrated, conscious, and accepting presence, the world can throw its worst at you, but it will no longer find a broken, fragmented place to land. It will meet only the quiet, unshakable wholeness of who you have finally become. If this journey we've taken together has touched something deep within you, if a small flame of awareness has been lit in the darkness, I invite you to declare it. Write, "I choose consciousness" in the comment below. Let's create a community of people who are no longer willing to just survive by pretending to be strong, but who are ready to truly live with courage and with truth. And please, don't let this be the end of your exploration. Subscribe and stay for the next part of the journey, because real transformation is not a single insight. It is a continuous unfolding. Thank you for your courage. I will see you in the next one.